She never imagined that a single ride would change her life forever. Meet Sara, a hardworking, no-nonsense woman juggling bills, deadlines, and a mountain of responsibilities. She wasn't born with a silver spoon, and she certainly didn't have time for fairy tales. To her, life was simple. Work hard, stay focused, and never, ever fall for sweet-talking men who made big promises but delivered nothing. And then there was him, a driver, or at least that's what she thought. He wasn't flashy, didn't wear designer suits, and certainly didn't roll up in a Lamborghini. No, he was behind the wheel of a sleek black car, dressed in crisp but simple clothes. The perfect image of a man who knew his place. Or so she assumed. "Miss, need a ride?" he asked one evening, his voice deep and smooth, like someone who knew a secret the whole world didn't. Sara barely glanced at him. "As long as you're not one of those guys who talks my ear off, sure." He chuckled. "I'll keep my mouth shut, unless you want a conversation." She smirked but said nothing, staring out the window. Another typical day. Another ordinary driver. Or so she thought. Because this man? He wasn't just anyone. And soon, she was about to find out the shocking truth that would turn her world upside down. As the car rolled through the city streets, Sara stayed glued to her phone, replying to emails, checking her bank balance. Still depressing, and mentally preparing for another long week at work. She barely noticed the way her driver maneuvered through traffic so effortlessly, like he owned the road. But then, something weird happened. At a red light, another car pulled up beside them, an expensive, flashy sports car. The driver, a cocky-looking guy in designer sunglasses, leaned out and smirked. "Yo, man, I thought you gave up driving people around." Sara raised an eyebrow. What kind of question was that? Her driver, who she barely even glanced at until now, just gave a small smile, unfazed. "Just helping someone get home," he said smoothly. The rich guy laughed, revved his engine, and sped off as the light turned green. Sara finally turned her head, narrowing her eyes. "What was that about?" "You know that guy?" The driver shrugged. "Just an old acquaintance." Something about his answer didn't sit right with her. Acquaintance? That guy looked at him like he should be anywhere but behind the wheel. But whatever, not her problem. Or so she thought. Because in just a few days, she was going to learn that her humble driver wasn't just some guy trying to make a living. Oh no, he was something much, much bigger. As the car rolled smoothly through the city streets, Sara barely paid attention to the man in the driver's seat. To her, he was just another face, another person making a living, another stranger in a world that never slowed down. She had bigger things to worry about, bills piling up, a boss who seemed to have made it his life's mission to make hers miserable, and a dream that felt further away with every passing day. Still, something about this driver was different. He was calm, collected, too composed for someone in his position. And that moment, back at the red light, that rich guy in the sports car, what was that about? Something didn't sit right, but she shook the thought away. Not her business. Or so she thought. Days passed, and she started noticing little things. The way people looked at him sometimes, like they recognized him but weren't sure from where. The way he carried himself, not like a man struggling to get by, but like someone who had never struggled a day in his life. And then there were the moments that truly made her question things, like when she saw the edge of an expensive watch peeking out from under his sleeve, or the time he pulled out his phone. and she caught a glimpse of a call from someone labeled board meeting. Board meeting? A driver? Sara brushed it off. Maybe he was just moonlighting. Maybe he had a side hustle. Everyone had to make ends meet somehow, right? But then came the night that changed everything. She had been working late, exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders, when she walked outside and saw him, her driver, leaning against the same sleek black car, waiting. But this time, he wasn't dressed in his usual attire. No, this time he wore a perfectly tailored suit, his posture relaxed, his presence commanding. And standing next to him? A group of men in suits, powerful men, laughing and shaking his hand like he was one of them. Sara stopped in her tracks. What was happening? One of the men, a sharp-looking older gentleman, clapped him on the back. "I don't know how you managed to keep such a low profile," he chuckled. "A billionaire playing driver? That's a first." Her breath caught. Billionaire? The driver? No, the man she thought was just a driver, glanced in her direction. Their eyes met. And in that moment, she knew. She had been wrong. So wrong. Her stomach twisted. Why hadn't he told her? Was this some kind of joke to him? Some rich guy's game? Heart pounding, she turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Sara, wait." She hesitated, just for a second. Then she kept walking. For days, she avoided him, ignoring his calls, refusing to acknowledge the truth. But the truth had a way of catching up. And when he finally showed up at her workplace, standing there in his crisp suit, looking nothing like the man she thought she knew, she had no choice but to face him. "You lied to me," she said, arms crossed. "I never lied," he corrected gently. "You assumed." That made her even angrier. "So, what was this, huh? Some experiment? You just play normal for fun?" His expression softened. "Number. I just wanted to know what it was like to be seen for me. Not my money, not my name, just me." Sara wanted to argue, to tell him that it didn't matter, that she couldn't trust someone who had kept such a huge secret. But deep down, she knew. He had never treated her differently. He had never flaunted his wealth, never looked down on her, never acted entitled. And maybe, just maybe, that scared her more than anything. Because the truth was, she had been falling for him long before she knew who he really was. And now, she had to decide. Would she let her pride push him away? Or would she take a chance on the man behind the fortune? After all, she had thought he was just a driver. But he turned out to be so much more.